Keyes. Welcome to Better Reading.
Thanks, I'm delighted to be here again.
So we were talking earlier, and you were here in 2017, which was, I think, the year that we launched this podcast.
But, I remember the room, definitely.
Yeah.
The minute I walked in, it felt
so
familiar.
that was, 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. And 8 trips to Australia, do you think?
About that, again, it's been over the course of 30 years, and some of them have been work trips and some personal.
Right. Do you like the country?
I love it, and my best friend has moved to Perth now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so any chance I get, I'm there.
Perth is lovely.
Yeah, and we went to the Margaret River.
Oh,
yeah, I can see why people rave about it.
I'm doing a road trip to the Margaret River in October.
Lovely.
With Melina Marchetta and Tess Woods, 2 authors. Now, there's a body of work here, and you probably don't remember what book number we're up to, or you're up to. It's the 16th,
It's the 16th
Oh, you do know that?
Yeah, I do.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to introduce you, and then we're going to have a chat. I've got some questions around growing up and writing. Okay, so she needs no introduction. As I said, it's the lovely Marian Keyes. And this book is about resetting your life. It's called My Favourite Mistake. I'm going to hold that up right there. Ever wanted to hit reset on your life? That's exactly what Anna Walsh does in My Favourite Mistake. It's warm, it's witty, and it's a wise, and it's a new novel by Marian. It's her 16th book, and in the 7th and much loved series called the Walsh Family series, but you can read them standalone.
Yeah, they're all standalone.
They are. Keyes takes us back to Ireland with Anna, who's leaving behind her high-powered PR job in New York and stepping into the messiness of real life, old flames, unexpected second chances. It's heartfelt, hilarious, and classic. You know, books like this really get me thinking. They make me think about you as a writer and the ageing process of a writer versus what you're writing and content. Like whether you're writing young, whether you're writing old, what period you are in your career, does that reflect on the authors, on the characters, sorry? And I think I saw that in this book.
Yeah, I don't think it's what phase I'm at in my career, but I do think it's what age I am physically.
Yes.
And what's going on, you know, to women my age in the world at the moment.
Yes.
And in fact, like, I'm a good bit older than Anna, although I wrote it, 3 years ago, but still, she's 48, I'm 61. But the thing that kind of mattered, that was important for me, one of the things to write about was menopause, because it's something that is rarely touched upon in...
It's taboo.
Yeah, until very recently.
It's terrible.
It seemed like bad manners to even say the word out loud.
Yeah.
So it's not a book about menopause, but it's a book where menopause is definitely present.
Yeah.
And it's no big deal, but it's a bit of a deal. Mm-hmm. And there are 5 sisters in the book, and they all have their own approach to dealing with it, because I don't want to be prescriptive. Like, Anna likes HRT, but one of her sisters, Margaret, has no interest. She just wants to be kind of through the whole process. So it's up to each individual woman to decide how they want to navigate it. But being asked to pretend that, you've gone insane for 5 years, or that you're, cultivating different goatees, it's no longer okay for it to be a joke. It isn't. It never was.
Do you know, I've always felt that it's a joke. It's slightly a joke. It's a slur, I think, on women. It's definitely taboo. I recently had an experience. I'm 61 as well, so we're the same age. But I recently had an experience, a medical experience. I won't go into it because it was so boring. And my doctor's diagnosis was misdiagnosed. And I thought, oh, okay. Anyway, it was traumatic at the time. But do you know, I listened to a podcast where Halle Berry, the American actor, was talking about menopause, and she said something that exactly what happened to me. And I had to go back to my doctor and say, I think it's this now. And we get our diagnosis from listening to a podcast because our symptoms aren't even valued by our GPs.
Absolutely. Like, women are very infantilized by the medical profession, particularly with regards to reproductive health.
Yes.
It's true. It's baffling. It's kind of hard to believe, but it is absolutely true. And that you and I, we know what our body is telling us. That opinion matters more than the opinion of somebody who isn't us.
Yeah.
I know they know a lot about bodies, but they don't know everything.
No, and they don't know about women's bodies.
They don't.
Much.
No. I mean, some female doctors are also like that, but most male doctors are still fairly dismissive of a really complicated, individualized process that can be very unpleasant and can go on for years.
And also, I don't think HRT would be as contentious if men were taking it as it is for women.
I mean, for years I've been saying this, that like if men went through the menopause, they would be given 10 years off work, paid, between the ages of 45 and 55. And then when they had finally transitioned through to their, to their elder, elevated status, there'd be a huge parade for them and the whole town would come out and there would be trucks and ticker tape and marching bands and they would be celebrated. That they had just moved into the very best part of their lives, of their intelligence, of their wisdom.
Yeah.
And instead, and they would be given so much HRT that they'd have to build an extension onto the back of the house just to house all the different versions that they wanted. But because it's something that happens to women, it isn't being treated.
No, it's not. I was just last week, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, a male friend of mine, and he was saying that, this has happened to him and he's got to take, blood pressure tablets or this tablet or whatever, we're all in the age group. And he said, are you on anything? And I said, yeah. And I told him, and I said, and I'm also on HRT, and bang, changed the subject.
He wouldn't go there.
No. As soon as it was like swearing at him.
Yeah, yes.
Like it was over. The conversation was over.
God.
I know. There we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel that very, very acutely when I'm reading female fiction in particular. And I'm only saying that because more and more we're seeing, books from women in this country, which is fantastic. A lot of historical fiction, general fiction, contemporary fiction. And I do, if I've started reading an author many years ago, I do notice I'm with her. I kind of feel the highs and lows of life with her as well. And I don't know whether that's just me projecting as a reader, but I like the fact that I grow up with some writers.
I mean, it's a lovely thing to have. And as an author who has been lucky enough to have a long career, I mean, I have not been on a steady line emotionally or with regards to life events. During those, lots of things have happened or not happened during that time. And the world has changed. Internally I've changed and externally I've changed. And all of that has to be represented in what I write.
Yeah.
And also just that feeling of hopefully improving at my craft with each new book.
And I think too, and we don't think about this in fiction enough, but I do think there has to be a level of honesty. Something's got to come from within, I think.
I mean, I think it has to be all honesty.
Yeah.
Like any advice, the first piece of advice I would ever give to any aspiring writer would be forget that anyone else is ever going to read your book. Because as soon as you start bringing in the imaginary opinions of other people, you stop being honest. And being honest, even when it doesn't show you in a good light, that's what you have to do. You have to show the bad bits as well as the good bits, the dark as well as the light, because otherwise it's sanitized and there isn't anything really to truly interest the reader, I think. And it is frightening, putting my most venal thoughts on paper or my most embarrassing experiences.
Yeah.
But, and, they may
We
not...
get exposed. We feel exposed.
Yeah. And, not everything may make it into the final draft, but it doesn't matter. Things can't be strategically omitted, I think, while the book is being written. And then there will be a shakedown, a rearrangement, and, it becomes obvious what needs to stay and what is actually excessive. But being honest is what it's all about.
And again, I want to just hark back to gender a little bit. I feel as though when you're reading a book written by women, that you're going to get the raw honesty, versus if you're reading, a book written by a man. And I know that's a gross generalisation, but there's a different tone. There is entirely a different tone, I think.
There is. And, I don't know whether that is because of socialisation or not. But, with women, there is emotional intelligence. I read some male authors that I admire.
Yeah, for sure.
But they examine issues from... strategically, from the top part, from the intellectual part of the head, rather than from the complexity of the emotional part. There's a very different template, I think, used in books written by men and books on the same subject written by women. It's approached in a very different way. And I don't know, as I say, whether that's because women have been told we're creatures of feeling, that we're over emotional and we don't really understand things. And maybe men have been told, emotions are not your friend, it's not really helpful to you. Think of it, in terms of logic. But but the difference is very obvious.
It's interesting you should say that, and this happened to me just the other day because I've been a great advocate for what's happening in Gaza. But I was having a moment this week and I remembered an incident of when I was really young, because my parents were immigrants to this country. They came from Lebanon in the 1950s, and my mother had 6 children. She did such a brilliant job of raising us. But anyway, I think I must have been 7 or 8, and this is just going back to emotion and interpretation. And I saw something on the news. I saw a story on the news where a child had been murdered, and I was little, and it derailed me. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't sleep. I was so upset about it. So my beautiful mother took me to Dr. Khoury on Cleveland Street in Redfern, which is at the time very much an Arab area. And I remember this so clearly, sitting there next to her in the doctor's surgery and she telling the doctor what's happened and she can't sleep anymore and she's crying. And he said, it's very simple. Rather than addressing the emotion or even delving into the emotion, Dr. Khoury said she just needs to stop watching the news. That is such a male approach to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Instead of talking to you about
that's
the
right.
horror and the sadness. And,
That's right. That's
yes.
right.
Although I have to say at the moment I have stopped watching the news because I find it so painful.
It's terrible.
Yeah, so I'm I'm here for both approaches at the moment. Because you've got to protect your heart as best you can.
It's hard.
But it is funny that nobody sat and took your hand and said,
no,
tell us how you felt and who was that little child to you?
Yeah. And then when I went home in the following, I don't know how long it lasted, maybe months, when the TV was on and they were watching the news, I had to leave.
And go into another room. That is so funny.
It's
tragic.
Very funny. It is funny. It is. She did the best she can, but I love that story. Of course. I love
because
that
you
story.
can only work with what you know at the time.
That's right. At least she took me to the doctor. That was the first step.
That was very, very decent.
Yeah.
I don't think in Ireland that would have happened.
No.
We would have been told...
Yes, zip up.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Stop that nonsense and go to sleep.
That's right. That's right. Okay, I want to go back to when you first started writing, because we've got, some... We talked about that the last time you were here, but we've got some new followers. Tell me how it is you became a writer, go way back.
I mean, it's not a straightforward story. I mean, I never knew that I could be a writer. I read an awful lot. Like, I found life very frightening and baffling as a child. So reading was my first addiction. And like, I read anything. And like, that continued right through teenage years. And then but like, the family I came from wasn't the kind of family where like, it would even occur to you that you could be a job. Your job could be writing. Like, writing was for elevated, posh people who, I don't know, they were part of the system and they probably owned publishing houses and they were all writers. And I got a degree in law, and then I went to London and I worked as a waitress, and I was very...
With your law degree?
With my law degree,
You worked as a waitress?
Yeah, because I had low self-esteem and, you know, and I had no idea what I could do with my life.
Yeah.
And it kind of parallel to all of this, like, I had an addiction that I didn't recognise as an addiction. Like, I was drinking alcoholically, and like, my life, as you know, as I neared 30, was just getting smaller and bleaker.
So you were drinking too much at that age, do you think?
Yeah. And 4 months before I stopped drinking, I read a short story in a magazine, and it was accessible, it was funny, and like, I was very suicidal at the time. I'd really kind of given up on almost everything.
Yeah.
It's okay, because you have to get very bad before you can get good, or before you can get well again. And a voice said, you could write something like that. And it feels like a very pivotal moment, because it was like something in me was saying, like, if you stay, you can have this. And so I wrote a short story that was a bit...
Oh, Marian,
you know,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and like, it was myself, sorry.
Oh, God.
Trying to save myself. And then I wrote a few more short stories over the next 4 months, and then I crashed and burned and ended up in rehab. And I saw that everybody else was right and I was wrong, and that, you know, I was definitely an alcoholic. And that
Did you identify that, or did you have people around you to help you?
Like, well, before I went into rehab, people were telling me. But I honestly thought I was just, I don't know, that I found life hard. But once I was in rehab, it was like, you couldn't not see it. Well, I couldn't not see it. And when I came out, I felt differently. I felt like, you know, that my relationship with alcohol it's over. And I felt very positive. And I remembered the stories. And I thought, I wonder if I could do something with them. Because like, I got the degree in law, but like, I didn't feel any pride in it. Like, I felt like if I can get it, anyone can. But I liked the short stories I'd written, and I liked the voice they were written in. And I mean, the voice they were written in was just my conversational voice. You know, it was just very chatty and what's
friendly.
the word? Yeah, idiomatic. Yeah. And so that was how I came.
Yeah,
you know,
wow.
yeah. So kind of.
So you got sober.
Yeah.
And you decided you had to do something.
Well, I wanted to do it.
Yes, but also, I guess, something that you value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed doing it, and I thought, if I hadn't written this, I'd want to read it. I suppose that's what it was, and that's kind of always been the benchmark, is that the word? You know, if I'm writing something and I'm thinking, I would not read this, it's got to go. But if I'm reading something and I think, okay, I'm interested, I like her, I want to know, then I know I'm doing it right. And all I was doing was, at the time we were called post-feminists. This was in the early 90s. And we were told that the world, you know, we were equal, that we could have everything we wanted, you know, that we could have the same money as men, we could have the same jobs as men. And, you know, sexually we could behave any way we wanted without judgment. But I was on the ground with a whole load of young women, you know, in their late 20s and early 30s. And the world is not like that. We knew it wasn't. So I just wanted to write about that reality where, like, what we told we were living in and what we were actually living in were enormously different. And kind of writing about that in a chatty, colloquial way, the timing was really good. Timing, look, like an awful lot of kind of things beyond my control happened at the same time. Like there was a waiting readership.
Because we want to know about, you know, what I find with your books is I just want to know about people like me and, you know, what they're going through and their highs and lows and what relationships are like, and with a sense of honesty, not through a rose-coloured...
Yeah, because I think an awful lot of us, you know, we present our shiny best self to the world, and we look at other people's shiny best selves and believe it, you know, whereas nobody is their shiny best self.
That's
you know,
right.
it's far, far, far more murky and complicated and changes all the time. And it's just kind of, I find it very reassuring to find out that nobody has it easy all the time. That even the most kind of, the most beautiful, the most charismatic, the most whatever, that even them, they have days when they just think...
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And I think so many of us are always questioning, you know, our value. What are we doing here? You know, is this valuable? Does it give? Does it take? I mean, I'm doing that all the time. I mean, honestly, and you're probably the same. You've got this career and I've got this career. And so often I think, how did I get here? Did I deserve it? Like, do you feel that?
I do. I absolutely do. I do. I mean, imposter syndrome is very real, but it's more real for women.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially because, I mean, what I do looks so easy because it's chatty.
Yes.
You know, it's conversational. It looks like I'm just sitting there typing everything that comes into my head, and it is far more interfered with than that.
Of course.
But over the years, I've never stopped feeling lucky, and I've never stopped kind of looking back and thinking, oh my God, there were a couple of pivotal moments there that I could have missed so easily. But I know that I put the work in. I know that I do my very best with each book. And I also accept other things, you know, like that not everybody's going to like me, and that there will always be kind of snobbery around books.
Do you know, I think that is the greatest sin in this industry, is the snobbery.
Well,
you know, people say to me sometimes, in terms of better reading and my business, oh, Cheryl, the problem with you is that you're too popular. What does that mean, even?
I know.
That people want to read the books that we talk about? That people want to listen to the authors that we have in? What is wrong with that?
Yeah. I mean, like, and who makes the rules?
Who makes the rules, yeah.
And, I mean, one of my theories, my many theories about things, is that, like, in a patriarchy, it is one way of kind of holding on to the power and the money is not only, well, is to mock the things the oppressed people love. You know,
that is so true.
Like, you see a woman reading a book with a pink cover and you've never read the author, you know nothing about them, but you know, you can just make one throwaway remark about, like, reading rubbish, and that's it. But it's been done to me, and I have felt a bit kind of small and kind of a little bit ashamed and kind of like, what kind of half-wit am I? You know. You know,
because you are popular.
Yeah, and because I haven't read Proust.
Yes, exactly.
Which, it doesn't matter. Like, life is short. Read what you enjoy.
No, do you know, often I say to people, just read a story.
Yeah.
Any story.
Yeah.
It's
enjoy
just about
yourself.
the story. Yeah.
I was privy to a conversation the other day. I won't give much details, but people, they were, oh my God, it was hilarious. They were like playing literary tennis. Like, how far have you got with Proust? Literally, they were talking about Proust. And then there was and Dostoevsky. Did you enjoy the brothers Karamazov or whatever it is? I've read that. I did actually enjoy it. But it was gas because they were just showing off how clever they were. You know, it wasn't like they had any... It was done for an audience.
I often think the review process is like that, and I'm not sure what it's like in Ireland or the UK, but for many years here in Australia, the reviewers were largely male for newspapers and magazines, right? And they had their own reading styles, and they were like the gatekeepers of what people read.
Yeah. But, it's not their fault. They like what they like.
That's right.
I have to tell you, I went to see the Minecraft movie with several of my nephews, and the reviews had been savage. So I'm in this cinema with a load of 10-year-olds, and the whole place is full. And they were so happy. And people came on the screen and they all applauded. And then somebody else appeared and they said catchphrases. And then there was a scene where they were told they weren't allowed to fling their popcorn, and they might have flung a little bit. But it dawned on me, they're so happy. And the people who reviewed the movie should be the 10-year-olds because they were united.
That's right.
And the people who reviewed it didn't get it.
And it wasn't for them.
It wasn't for them, but it was for these.
That's right.
They had a great time. And to be honest, I kind of enjoyed it myself.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the collective energy.
That's right.
Of just, they were so happy.
Yeah, but we do. There's a level of snobbery. It drives me crazy. This industry drives me crazy in that respect. I just want to go back to publishing your first book. How was the process? How did you get published?
Okay. I had written my short stories.
Yeah.
And while I was in rehab, I had read books by an Irish writer called Patricia Scanlon. Now, this is back in the day when the only Irish writer who was published, well, the only popular Irish writer who was published internationally was Maeve Binchy.
Yes.
I mean, there just wasn't any tradition of women being published. Well, I mean, it was mostly men anyway. Yeah. And she was published by a small Irish house. So I sent my short stories off to them.
So you found out who published her?
And I said I had written part of a novel, which I hadn't. And I didn't want to because I thought books are really long. I mean, that could take 9 months. Yeah, it's going to take ages. And they wrote back and said, we can't really do anything with the short stories, but send us what you've written of the novel. And that was another of those pivotal moments when I thought, look at what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
I give it a go.
Yeah.
And one of the books that I had read kind of a lot, and I'd read it in rehab as well, was Heartburn by Nora Ephron.
Yes.
So the idea of a woman having a baby and splitting up with her partner, that was just, I liked the idea. So I started with that. And I mean, obviously the setting is very different and the voice is completely different. But I gave it a shot. And they said, okay, we'll give you a shot.
There you go. And they launched that career.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think in the process, well, in the time that your career has gone by, have you changed a lot of, your craft? Have you changed the way you write? But I mean, not in kind of style, but I mean, physical.
Yeah.
Are you more disciplined? Are you... Has anything changed in that time? Do you wake up at 9 and write till 4?
Yeah. I mean, normally I was a kind of a 9 to 5er. Yeah. But during the pandemic, I wrote in the daytime, but I also started writing at about 9:30 at night until maybe 11, half 11. And it was different kinds of writing. It was far more edity stuff. It was more like shrinking sentences. I used to get great pleasure of reducing, a 20-line paragraph to 4 words.
Wow.
And even now I'll often revisit what I've done late at night. So that has changed, but the whole kind of the craft, I just didn't understand. I had no idea that you don't just put down every thought and every word that comes into your head. And so I love that thing now that journalists have, is you say as much as you can with as few words as possible. And then, I like that, but then people have complained, because that they're not as chatty or as discursive as they used to be. And that's the thing, you're always going to disappoint somebody.
But you're also going to evolve,
That's it.
Yeah.
And you can only do what you think is your best
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I think.
Yeah.
That I will write the best book that I think I can do. And some people will like it, hopefully, and some people won't, and that makes me sad. But in the overall scheme of things, it's survivable.
And do you think you'll continue writing?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yes.
That is your career from beginning to end.
Yeah, it's more than that, though. I do find it hard work, and I do kind of, I'm not down the mines, I know that, but I like to get characters right and kind of revisiting them and trying them in different ways until they feel believable. That's a challenge. But being in that other world is a form of, I get pleasure and pride from it. And in a way that I don't think I would.
And
from
it
anything
clearly
else.
still excites you to write.
It does. That wonderful thing of like after finishing a book and then there's nothing. Like there's just tundra, nothing. And then this small little inkling. Something happens. I see a person or I meet somebody or something sparks and I think, hold on a second, there's something here. It's lovely.
I spoke to Lee Child a few years back now, who I really love, and again very male, the stories that are told are at a certain level, but that's the genre and that's what you buy into when you start reading it, and I enjoy it very much. But I spoke to him I don't know, he was up to book 20 or 21 or something like that, and I said, how do you approach it, now that you're experienced? And he said, no. Each book, even book number 20, is as hard as the first.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
It's kind of like authors are torturing themselves, whereas at least we get better in our jobs, hopefully.
Well, you can get better in your job as a writer, but it is as hard.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah. Each book, I don't know, it's like climbing a mountain in the dark.
Yeah.
And each time the mountain is different.
Yeah. Do you doubt yourself?
Always.
Always.
I
yeah.
mean, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think a really bad thing would be if I thought, that's fine.
Yeah.
It'll do. That would be the worst thing.
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good to agonise. Well, maybe it's not, but I do it anyway.
Yeah.
I don't have much say in it. I don't want to disappoint people, and I really don't want to disappoint myself.
Yeah. Do you know, it's the only job, I've said this before on the podcast, where, you work so hard and you work largely in isolation, it's a solo activity to write a book. And, maybe you're in a writing group, maybe not. And then you've got the hurdles of, finding an agent, finding a publisher. And then you finally get that book out there and everyone has an opinion. I mean, that is really exposing yourself, isn't it?
It is, yeah. In the weeks before publication, I start having nightmares.
Yes.
It's kind of, when you think about it, it's, I'm not a heart surgeon.
That's right.
But it's and everybody will have opinions.
Yeah.
And a lot of the opinions will be good. And people are entitled to their opinions, really.
Yeah.
At this stage, they absolutely are. It doesn't matter. And it's all survivable for me. Nothing is going to stop me.
And for the reader, I think it's a gift, I don't want, not every book of that author am I going to love. Yeah, that's the gift, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're lucky enough to have a long career, I read this isn't my thought, you're going to have failures.
And people are going to like you and people are not going to like you. Stories are going to be read and stories aren't going to be read, and that's just life, isn't it?
Absolutely. And everyone has, their shelf life. And I'm just delighted to be still clinging on.
I think, Marian, your shelf life is going to be, as long as you want it to be, because I really do believe that the reason that you have been so popular is because you are a writer with empathy, that every one of those characters in the book, I can see myself in somebody.
Thank you.
And for me, as a female, and we're the same age, and that's important to me. It's important to see people living their lives, even their fictional lives, in a way that I can relate to.
Thank you, because that's what I want to give.
You do give that.
Yeah, it's the emotional interiority rather than plot that drives me.
Yes.
It's people's, what people go through. What people think.
It's the situations.
Yeah.
Do you know what I also really like about you is that you give yourself to these promotional tours, they're not easy. I think, 8 trips or 7 trips to Australia and all the other touring you do, a lot of authors don't engage in that process because it is a difficult process. But you allow the reader to connect with you on a personal level. And I think that's very generous.
But I get a lot from it too.
Yes.
I mean, because I always felt like such an oddball. Like I always found other people and the world so baffling. And by writing about those feelings and readers, engaging or identifying, it's very circular. I don't know, symbiotic. I don't know the word, but it feels...
It's a relationship.
Yeah, it's a relationship. It is. And that's why, I love doing events because, even if there's lots of people there, I feel like we all sort of know something about each other or a lot about each other. I feel like I know the people who've come and that they know me and that they kind of know each other. I hope that doesn't sound really precious, but because of what I write about, I don't think I could write about it and then refuse to talk about it.
I love it. Marian Keyes, we're out of time. Thank you so much for coming here today.
My pleasure.
So appreciate it. Let's not wait another 7 years, though.
Okay, yeah.
Come back soon.
I will. Thank you.